ki jai. So we continue reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 33, entitled The Activities of Kapila, text number 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We go word by word. Shraddhatsvaitam,
Shraddhatsvaitam,
Matam,
Mahayam,
Yushtam,
Yat,
Brahmavadibhihi, Yena, Mam, Abhayam, Yaya, Mrityum, Richanti, Atatvidaha, Shraddhatsvaitam Matam Mayam,
Shraddhatsvaitam Matam Mayam,
Yushtam Yat Brahmavadibhihi,
Yat Brahmavadibhihi,
Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya,
Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya,
Mrityum Richanti Atatvidaha,
Mrityum Richanti
Shraddhatsvaitam Matam Mayam, Yushtam Yat Brahmavadibhihi, Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya, Mrityum Richanti Atatvidaha,
Shraddhatsvaitam Matam Mayam, Yushtam Yat Brahmavadibhihi, Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya, Mrityum Richanti Atatvidaha,
Shraddhatsvaitam
Matam Mayam,
Yushtam Yat Brahmavadibhihi,
Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya, Mrityum Richanti Atatvidaha.
One more.
Shraddhatsvaitam Matam Mayam, Yushtam Yat Brahmavadibhihi, Yena Mam Abhayam Yaya, Mrityum Richanti Atatvidaha. Shraddhatsva,
you may rest assured.
Etat,
About this. Matam, instruction. Mahayam, my. Yushtam, followed. Yat, which. Brahmavadibhihi, by transcendentalists. Yena, by which. Mam, unto me. Abhayam, without fear. Yayaha, you shall reach. Mrityum, death. Richanti, attain. Atatvidaha, persons who are not conversant with this. Translation and purport by Sri Sri Prabhupada ki jai. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions, as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. Purport. Material existence is full of anxiety and therefore it is fearful. One who gets out of this material existence automatically becomes free from all anxieties and fear. One who follows the path of devotional service enunciated by Lord Kapila is very easily liberated. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Slapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vagisha yasya vadhane, Lakshmi yasya chavakshasi, yasya te hridaye samvit, tam narasimham aham bhaje, pralada hridayaladam, bhaktavitya viram, sharatinduruchim vande parindra vandanam harim. Translation again. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions, as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. So Sri Kapila Dev is continuing to instruct his mother. And here, what is he doing in this verse? What did you notice? What is he doing toward his mother? What is he giving?
Instructions.
Yes, he instructs. He promises something, right? He promises that if you follow this path perfectly, you certainly will reach me. So he's reassuring. He's practically asking also to have faith. He asks his mother, have faith in my instructions, because if you do so, you will attain me and you will become free from the fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach the spiritual abode. So this is actually the counterpart to fear. It's not necessarily courage or bravery, it's trust. Fear is often about doubt, being uncertain, fearing something can happen if I don't control myself, or like in general. But trust is like the counterpart. If I trust, I can feel safe. If I fear, I will feel unsafe. It's in a way simple. So what is Krishna encouraging in so many places is to have trust in this process of Bhakti Yoga, in himself as a person. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, he is making the point that this process of devotional service doesn't work without trust, without Shraddha. Here also this word in the beginning is Shraddhatsvaitan. Here it's like in this context, or in this frame, it means you may rest assured. It means also be peaceful, be trusting. You know, if I say rest assured, that I'm actually telling you, you can trust that what I'm saying is good and you don't have to worry. So can also be translated as don't be afraid, or no need to be afraid. And Krishna is saying in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the most confidential knowledge, he says, Ashraddha dhana purusha dharmasasya parantapa aprapya mamyavartante mrityu sangsarvatmani. Again, here the word Shraddha is in, but it's Ashraddha. Ashraddha dhana purusha dharmasasya parantapa. He's mentioning the people who have no faith or only very little faith on this path of devotional service. He says they cannot reach me. And then he says, consequently, they have to return to the cycle of birth and death. Mrityu samsara varmani. That's the only alternative. Because the living entity, Shraddha, or trust, is an intrinsic quality we all have. We all tend to and want to put our trust in someone or something. Because this gives us the ability to connect. If you speak also of yoga or connection, how can there be any connection if I don't trust or feel confident that I'm safe in this connection, or this is productive for me or for my advantage? Right? If I would have doubts and be fearful, I would not connect. Also, you see that with people. I guess all of you can look in your life, might be your family, might be friends, might be partners. If the higher the trust, the deeper the connection usually. And the lower the trust, the bigger the distance between people. You know, if I'm in a state where I say, I mistrust you or I don't trust you at all, so I'm always on a distance, I'm always alert, and the people will rather shut down, not open themselves. So trust is there in the living entity, and it's required to attain yoga also. Yoga means connection. And actually also Shraddha is on which place in the 8 steps of devotional service?
First one.
First one, exactly. First comes Shraddha, and then comes Sadhusanga, because then I'm ready to have association with like-minded people or with devotees. Because in the beginning there must be some trust at least. Srila Prabhupada makes a point also for those who are very doubtful, who don't trust, oh yeah, Krishna, I don't believe Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita he's saying, you might not have full faith that Krishna is God and that the Bhagavad Gita is true, but please do this. Hypothetically assume or accept that Krishna is the Supreme Godhead, and this way read the Bhagavad Gita and try to understand. So, kind of make the trust experiment, assume that, give some hypothetic faith at least, because this will enable you to enter into the subject matter of devotional service. Like with anything else, if you start a study and you would be thinking, this is completely useless. You would sit there in the lessons and you would just think, I waste my time, what am I doing here? And you wouldn't even listen. Because the state of heart is, it's useless. I don't need that. It's, anyway, shouldn't be there at all. So, no benefit. So similarly, people can sit in an assembly in whatever given religion and listen to what is being said, or like participate in what is being done. But if there's no faith or conviction, because also faith is translated as conviction, that this has meaning or this is true, or like there is purpose in it, I will not give myself. That's another thing. Like Shraddha said, faith is an ingredient to connect, but also it is necessary to devote yourself. You want to be devotees. Devotees are people who give themselves to Krishna, who give their energy, who give their time, give their money, give their body, give their mind. So, but you would not be able to give it if you wouldn't be convinced that also this makes sense for you. Right? There must be some conviction. To make a sacrifice. People who have strong conviction or strong faith, they're willing to also to gain, you say in English, through great lengths to attain goals. So Shraddha is here encouraged by Lord Kapila, and he says, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions. Following the instruction is also a sign of faith. If I wouldn't have faith that Srila Prabhupada is a bona fide spiritual master, and that what he says is authorized spiritual knowledge, I would not follow his instructions. Like if I have any book of any person where I think, I don't know what is this background of this person, what kind of parampara, like is this really valid what he's saying, or if I notice it's nonsense, I will not follow what this person is saying. So, but if I have faith, if I have conviction, because I'm also got convinced by maybe argument, by logic, by proper explanation and guidance, naturally I will follow. There's also a sign of a devotee. A devotee is someone who truly follows the person he is devoted to, means Krishna, the spiritual master. So we can also check our faith by how much are we willing to apply the process of devotional service in our lives, how much are we willing to extend it. And maybe we find I'm not so much willing. And then we could also check, okay, where are my doubts, where am I not trusting, and why? Then again comes the association with devotees to figure out, what is moving my mind? What is maybe stopping me or blocking me from entering deeper into devotional life? Devotional service is not slavery. Devotional service is not some work. It sounds like that to people, because the word service has this ring, because in our society, service is you work in service, that means people who are in gastronomy. This is people also in German language, they even if it's not German, but they use the English word, I work in service. So, but devotional service is actually, we can put it in other words, is the natural tendency or the strong need and urge to do something satisfying for Krishna, to somehow or other do something of which I believe Krishna is pleased with that, and that's something that enhances my own spiritual well-being, this devotional service. Also based on the understanding, okay, Krishna gifted me with some things. My body is gifted with certain qualities. Every one of us has. You can check yourself, what are you good at? Some say, I'm good at nothing. Well, check again. I'm certain there's something, because it would mean Krishna missed out on giving you some purpose. That's not possible. Krishna gives everyone purpose and meaning and some gift. So sometimes we don't look properly at ourselves. So there's also something, humility doesn't mean, for example, you to deny all the qualities and competences you have. Humility means you don't claim the benefit or for yourself. You say, Krishna equipped me and I might use it in the service. So in this way, also that means, if I see my own qualities Krishna gave me, then I use them in the service. In this way I have an opportunity to connect with Krishna and to deepen my connection. We came with how we came to this? With the following of the truth. Huh?
We started with Shraddha.
With Shraddha and Sadhusanga. Exactly. Thank you. If you have doubts about this, we also have the opportunity then to exchange ourselves with others who are on the path of devotional service and try to encourage each other and benefit each other by supporting our devotional life and by maybe clearing doubts, discussing philosophy, or finding someone that you trust or think you could trust and reveal your mind. This is one of the principles Srila Rupa Goswami is highlighting in the Nectar of Instruction. Three types of exchanges. 2 seem to be rather easy. Third one is maybe not so easy. One is giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, that's easy. Usually we're eager, although it's an art actually. Sometimes what we do here as prasadam exchange in different parts of India, they would be shocked. They wouldn't expect that or respect that as proper prasadam culture. The whole way of cooking, the whole way of how it is served, and so many details. So in order that it counts as loving exchange, there must be also a particular frame, a particular way of how it's done. So, but still, prasadam is relatively easy. And then there's gifts in exchange. You give gifts, you receive whatever is being given back to you. But then there is revealing your mind in confidence, but also sharing with others in confidence. So that's more the relationship that you have with an elder or with a person that you trust, simply, ultimately with your guru. A person whom you give some entrance, some insights into what is moving your mind, where is your Shraddha. And the guru, in the highest sense, but also in the lower sense, is someone who, one of his qualifications is, he can dissipate doubts. This was Krishna, how Arjuna is addressing Krishna as his guru. He's always addressing him as Keshava, Madhusudana. And demons represent what? Doubts. And Krishna is the killer of so many demons. And in this relationship he has with Arjuna, he is killing doubts, he is the guru, he is giving arguments and knowledge. And Gu is darkness, Ru is light or enlightenment, and the Guru is the person who enlightens you about stuff. So any person who to some degree at least brings you upliftment or enlightenment is to some capacity a Guru and person you can trust. Guru is not just a title you should fear and respect. Guru is also a qualification mark, like so to say, a benchmark in which you can recognize someone is trustworthy. Someone can give you guidance and really clear your questions, your doubts. This is so important. And here this was what this Kapila Dev is also highlighting here. Rest assured, if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from the fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. So he's encouraging his mother to have trust. And Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport, material existence is full of anxiety and therefore it is fearful. And one who gets out of this material existence automatically becomes free from all anxieties of fear and fear. Maybe someone remembers, it's a while back, there are quite a few chapters where Sri Kapila Dev is speaking, but perhaps one of you remembers, what does Sri Kapila Dev say or teach? What is the source of fear in this material world?
That we identify with the material nature.
Well, yes, this causes fear identification with the material nature, yes, but he particularly names some energy of his, giving them a hint.
Ignorance?
External.
Well, yes,
Kala, that everything is
exactly. Yes, the time factor, Kala Shakti, she's causing fear of death, it said. And this is the ultimate fear, so to speak. There are different fears on different levels, but the fear of non-existence or losing one's identity and existence, that's one of the most horrible ones. And also fear of taking birth again. Those who have a bit understanding and knowledge, they don't want to get again into the state of ignorance. It's fearful, because you're dependent, you suffer. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who are on this path and attain at least something, there's no diminution, there's no loss. And even a bit advancement of this path can save one from the greatest fear. Someone recalls what Prabhupada says, what is the greatest fear?
Taking birth in a lower species.
Yes, taking birth again in the material body. Yes, that's the greatest fear. The likelihood of again forgetting everything. And again having to go through birth, death, old age and disease. He always also highlighted these are the essential problems. People nowadays have so many problems, or they think that they have so many problems, but really on the bottom line, there are 4 core problems. Birth, old age, death and disease. These, like in a different chronology, you could put them: birth, the beginning, death at the end, and between old age and disease. So, and the time factor is that which is causing it, because anxiety comes from like things are not in our control and things are temporary. And the word what is used here is also bhaya. And there are many prayers where also devotees in the Bhagavatam pray for fearlessness. For example, the residents of Jambudvip, there's in the 5th canto a famous prayer to Lord Narasimhadev starting Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Avir Bhava Vajranaka Vajradamshtra Karmashayan Randhai Thamugrasa Grasa Om Svaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyishta Om Kshram. Lord Narasimhadev is there addressed as the source of all power. Namaste Tejas is the power. Avir Bhava. Vajranaka Vajradamshta. O Lord, you who have teeth and nails just like thunderbolts. He says, please kindly banish our demon-like desires or foolish activities in this world. And then Abhayam, Atmani Bhuyishta. Bhaya is fear, and please make us fearless in the struggle for existence. Because this is actually the strongest emotion. We might think lust and all these other things are very strong, and they are. But actually most powerful is fear. Because also nowadays we can see fear is used so much to influence people's consumption behavior, political decisions, social interactions. So many ways fear is the core. If someone is fearful enough, you have control over him. If you know how to scare someone, you know how to control someone. Practically. Right. So therefore, like, fearlessness is a need also in spiritual life. And as we said, it has to do with trust. But then there's also, based on trust, there is need to step out of the fear, so to speak. We also see that at prayers, Chaladutta from Srila Prabhupada when he came to the West. Can you remember what would be his only, what you could identify as fear or anxiety? Srila Prabhupada.
That the people might not understand his message.
This was one concern, they might understand.
Not being able to fulfill his guru's wish.
Yeah, that was one of his anxieties, like, to hopefully he will be successful.
That he was very old at that time.
Yes, that he has
Not
enough.
having enough time to fulfill.
Right. Yeah, you also saw, like, my body's temporary and hopefully I have enough time. So this was some concerns. But you see also some devotees, sometimes like Lord Brahman himself, the only fear they sometimes have is, if I engage in your service connected to material nature, I'm afraid I might be influenced by it, come on this platform of false ego and then forget Krishna, then forget my spiritual identity. So that's the fear they have, they pray for protection. But also here, when you are in this condition, fear is something that holds there, because you can see fear leads to protective behavior. Naturally, you try to protect yourself from fear. And if you don't have the spiritual knowledge, if you don't take shelter at Krishna, you try material means, which is an interesting thing. The source of your fear you make also your shelter. Material nature is the cause of your fear, but then we seek also some other aspects of material nature to secure ourselves, wealth and riches and whatever kind of securities. Stepping out of fear means to be willing also to take risks. You know, we have also, when we work with people, there are strategies we call strategies for living and strategies for survival. We have that when people are in a fear mode, they're rather surviving. And one of the symptoms is, for example, pretending to have control over things. Everything works fine, I have everything under control. Or playing it safe. No risk. Just I'm little in my safe comfort zone. Let nothing shake my little world. Everything, I arranged it, it's fine so far. So don't rock anything, like that. So keeping it safe. So, but that means we are actually controlled by the fear, and it limits us, and it keeps us there where we stand, fearful. So, and there's a simple saying in German: Angst überwindet man dadurch, dass man sich traut. Say, fear you overcome by daring, practically. So we have to object to the fear, so to speak. Sometimes people have ideas what they would like to do, but they are afraid, what if others disapprove, or criticize me, or are envious? I don't do. Or they have desires and visions for themselves, but they think, what if I fail? No, better don't. And then they become very frustrated and perhaps empty, and then they stay in the fear. And fear is not rewarding. And there's so many other ways of fear that could be there. No, I better don't go to India. I heard it's dangerous. We don't have all the securities there that we have here. Or that not just India, maybe other place. So what happens if you don't take risks, you also don't realize what is your potential, because we stay in a limitation. So also in spiritual life, it's about expanding our potential for devotional service. The preachers, for example, they take risks in going countries. I wouldn't be daring enough to go like Sri Prabhupada, for example, was always particularly rewarding to devotees who would go to the Arab countries and preach. It's quite a risk to go there, like to some places where there's a lot of intolerance toward Krishna consciousness, for example, and to preach there. It's quite a risk. But also to simply position yourself in your own family, in your own society, say, I live this way. I'm a Hare Krishna. I don't eat meat, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do this and that. And even I dress myself weird. Could be something, which is a risk where you step out of like a comfort zone of being respected, acknowledged. So I also face that sometimes myself, I work in a mental health care field, and there are many good aspects to what I do and people notice. At the same time, you can see, of course, the kind of image or cliche of being in a particular sect or group always is there in the energy of it, and you're always challenged to whether you're willing to expose yourself to this possible criticism or being looked down or like whatever, or you stand, so to speak. You take your stand and say, no, that's what I am, that's what I do. So this kind of courage to show your conviction. That's on a smaller level. Challenge your fears, Stand beyond what you're doing. If you really think Krishna consciousness is a good thing, and it works in your life, and you think it should be spread, then stand for it. Don't hide it. And it's also the service itself. Because there's these discussions nowadays also with what is external, what is internal. But external also shows something about where you internally stand. Everyone does that. Not only Hare Krishnas or any person reflects on the outside something about how they see themselves inside or what they want to represent. It's just normal. Your external appearance is not completely separate from who you are inside. It might be if you're too fearful to show what is inside, and then your outside might contradict your inside. So, challenging fear and stepping out of fear is an important process in devotional life. And there are different levels, of course, of risk. One can take maybe different fears one has, but it's important to address these things in association with devotees. Because fear is also one anartha can become. Like any other emotion, like greed can be an anartha, lust an anartha, envy an anartha. Artha means a goal or something that brings you forward to your spiritual goals. And anartha, it's something that holds you away from reaching your goal. And you can reflect, okay, where are my fears, where are my doubts, where do I not trust in Krishna or in the teachings or in the process? And then seek the exchange, seek guidance. And it's also not a shame to be afraid or like any other, because sometimes people think it's diminishing their value as persons that they, for example, have fears, or like any other might be that they are envious or that they are lusty or that they... So there's always this sense of inadequacy that could come. I don't admit that I'm afraid. It's also one of these things, not allowing vulnerability would be a strategy for survival, pretending something. But vulnerability, also showing fear, is a strategy for living, being authentic. Because if fears are addressed, you can deal with them. If you repress them, hide them, put them away, you cannot deal with them. And they might become bigger than they actually are. There's a tendency of the mind to make things bigger if they just circle within the mind, if you don't process them. So it's so much important to have relationships that facilitate the exchange between devotees. Like here, you can observe in these chapters that Devahuti, Jagannath Baladev Subhacha Devi ki jai. And Kapila Dev, they had a very trusting, very deep relationship, and Devahuti revealed her mind to her son, which is uncommon if you take it simply as a mundane example. Of course, Kapila Dev is God himself, and Devahuti is the God's mother, but in general, like, parents don't reveal their mind to the child. Might be the other way around, is it? Or you have experienced your parents come to you and inquire from you submissively what the process of devotional service. They always just think when you start preaching to them, they just say, hey, come on, stop it, cool, I'm your mother, I'm your father, I changed your diapers, I see you grow, like, don't come and teach me, like this. So there were the relationship where they had enough trust to also openly discuss. Devahuti revealed all her doubts and what was moving her mind. So in general, that's about loving exchange between devotees, that there's a safe space where there can be exchange productive. Not just dwell in, oh, my fears of that, oh, I'm also afraid of that, and then you just share about your fears and you stay fearful. No, it's about finding ways to step out of the fear, how to get courage. What risk can I take? How can I stretch myself? Where do I need to make a step forward out of myself? And we can even hear that even great personalities like Rudra, the destroyer of the world, Shiva, he also is afraid, practically of himself. Have you heard about that? Yeah?
And when he creates this person, the boon to whoever he touches.
That might be another story, where he gave this boon to a demon who then tried to use this boon on Shiva, which the boon was if I touch one, he dies. So, no, it's here related to the process of creation and destruction. So, here Srila Prabhupada writes, it's from the Bhagavatam, from the 4th canto, chapter 24, verse 46. If one strictly follows the process of devotional service, he has no fear of death, for he is predestined to go back home, back to Godhead. The non-devotees are fearful of death because they have no guarantee of where they are going or of the type of body they are going to get in the next life. Here, one of the sources of fear is uncertainty. I can't see it, I can't control it, what will happen. So having no control is a source of fear. But trusting Krishna means I let you control and I trust that you control properly. That's what we do when we trust in God, and then we can be relieved and we can feel safe. This is one of the symptoms of Sharanagati, surrender. If a person truly accepts Krishna as the supreme shelter and protector and supplier of everything. But here in this verse, the word Rudra Bhaya is significant because Rudra himself, Lord Shiva, is speaking of fear of Rudra. So the verse was spoken by Rudra. This indicates that there are many Rudras, 11 Rudras. And the Rudra, Lord Shiva, who was offering this prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is different from the other Rudras, although he is as powerful as they are. The conclusion is that one Rudra is afraid of another Rudra because each and every one of them is engaged in the destruction of this cosmic manifestation. But for the devotee, everyone is afraid of Rudra, even Rudra himself. So it's a kind of bit maybe, gives us a smile to think of that even Rudra, the most fearful person, is afraid of practically himself by having this immense destructive power to destroy the universes. And there might be this interesting detail in the 5th canto. The glories of Lord Anantadev are described. We know Vishnu is creating the whole cosmos. Then he lays on Anantadev. And Anantadev is not only the resting place for Vishnu to lay comfortably, but he's also the one who takes care of the destruction. At the ultimate destruction, he's spitting fire out of his mouth, and then the whole universe gets gradually destroyed, all the water evaporates and everything. And he also said, like, there are different stories. It's ultimately the same Vishnu. Sometimes that Rupa comes out of Lord Brahma, his forehead. This is one type of Rudra. Then there's stories in the Brahma Samhita where Vishnu is said out of his forehead he comes. And then there's said out of Ananta's forehead at the time of destruction. And it's Anantadev who instructs and inspires Rudra to do the destruction. He practically teaches him how to perform this destructive work. It's an interesting thing to see how Anantadev is actually the form of Krishna who takes care of the destruction. And the said Kala Shakti, that what causes fear, is of course Krishna's energy, and he says he controls material nature from the outside by Kala Shakti, from the inside a super soul, but also Kala Shakti is a feature of the super soul. This is what also Krishna is seeing in the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is explaining first, verse 10 to 13 in the 11th chapter. Krishna decides, let me present my form as Mahavishnu, as the cosmic super soul. And later on, when he's ready, I describe Kala Shakti. These are like verse 20 something. Then the whole descriptions are there, very graphic descriptions how Arjuna gets afraid. So, what Kapiladev is saying, if one takes the process of devotional service perfectly and follows with faith, then one becomes fearful. That's the message. And we know also devotional service has characteristics that speak for that. One is it's the beginning of all auspiciousness, destroys all sinful reactions and liberates us practically from material nature. Then also it surpasses all the possible happiness of material nature, of Brahmani. It's that, and it's the only means to attract Krishna. So this is what we need, attract Krishna in our life, to be close to him. This is the same as being safe. Krishna promises. Also in the shloka he says, where he tells to Arjuna, please spread the word, my devotee will never perish. Yeah, so, and also Kapiladev gives a promise. So we can decide to have faith in this promise and adopt this process of devotional service very seriously and intensely, try to expand and also learn to deal with our fears by sharing them appropriately in an appropriate context, and try to become more courageous and in our devotional life. Express ourselves, also take some responsibilities, but it can also be fearful, oh my God, if I'm responsible for this, what then? Alright, so that was the sign for me also. Are there any questions, comments, sharings?
Thank you for the class. It was it's very interesting. It's very relevant for me because today I'm gonna shave a shika again. So and one part of walking around with a shika and the fear that is connected for me always was that I'm kind of representing also
the weirdos.
No, the movement in Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to, there's this responsibility of also being like a good person or like, and I heard this from other devotees also, that they don't have shika because of this. So what would you say, how to deal with this kind of fear?
Go on with it. Not with the fear, but take the challenge. And yes, because then people of course notice you as a devotee, you have a responsibility. It's also one of the ideas why the externals matter, because it makes you more self-aware in the sense, okay, I'm representing something, and in particular represent my guru, I represent this movement, and let me give a good impression. And doesn't mean you have to be worried to be all perfect. You don't have to be, but to really show an attitude of really endeavoring and just be also natural. My experience so far is with these external features. Usually they led to interest and inquiry and rather positive response. I never experienced strong kind of aversion or whatever. Rather, people inquired and there was opportunity to share something about Krishna consciousness and get an exchange. And then also, if you're good in what you're doing, let's say you're a good student, or if you work somewhere, good worker.
If you're not.
Well, if you're not, then well, what to do?
That's the fear.
Let's assume the positive scenario. Then this also is a good service for Guru and the movement, because then people see, oh, this is Hare Krishna, and this person is irresponsible, reliable, professional, or competent, or a very pleasant person. You know. So if they connect these things, then with you belonging to this movement, then it's a very good service you can do. You know.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point. It's because sometimes at university, for example, I'm kind of in the background, you know, and not really. And then there is this fear that, yeah, they perceive you as this loner, strange guy. Okay, Hare Krishna, yeah, of course. Like this whole chain reaction.
Well, yes. And one thing is to look at that individually in a conversation, but in general, there must be not a need to be afraid of being individual. You know who you are. If you're perhaps more of an introverted person in nature, a bit for yourself, it's not a defect. You know, there are those who are constantly in the center. On the other hand, you know, who like run around and always visible, always audible, always everything, anything. Give me a break, you know. And I think people will grant you your own mentality and nature. They get to know you a bit, you know. They will see, hey, Lucas is like that, so, right? Like anyone else is like that, and anyway, let's not try to assume all the possible criticisms and ways of how people could look at you and try to please everyone. It's not possible. That's a way to make your life miserable, you see.
Maybe the better thing is to just expect criticism, expect that you are the weirdo, and then be happy if someone is, if the world is actually turning out better. You know.
Yeah, it can also
like
be a strategy to. But in general, the idea is, if you feel like, okay, I would actually rather more like stand for it, also show externally that that's my lifestyle, or that's my religion, that's my faith, and then do it, you know. Like just be in the process also, and by doing it, because that's the thing with fear up front, there's so many reasons, and then fear is blocking. But we have to also be in the process and learn to deal with things and allow ourselves also maybe make this one mistake or another.
I just want to mention that in the Jaiva Dharma it's mentioned that you should not feel that you have to do this. You just prepare. If you're prepared and you want to do it, then you can do it.
To do what, you mean?
Show the external features or this or whatever you like to show.
Yeah, because then your faith or Shraddha is like there, like, and it's kind of a calling of your faith also to maybe go to this kind of step, yeah.
Maybe ultimately the reactions that would come, they would just be by Krishna's will. And if you say that, you just accept it, because it would be, because Krishna has arranged this for you. So if you see it in that light, it might be easier.
Yeah, it helps to see Krishna as the controller, maybe. In a sense.
Do any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I wanted. Sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned also that some people, like, if they hear about devotional service, they think like it's some kind of slavery or something, because like we give ourselves to Guru, we do what he says and follow instructions very strictly if possible. And for me it's sometimes difficult to explain that to other people, because sometimes it's not that I tell about, but they know a little bit about Hare Krishna, then yeah, you have to follow very strict rules and things like that. And what can we like say in a simple way that they can kind of have a change of this view?
In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I think in one of the shlokas in the 60 or 70, like quite at the end, or like even 50s, there it is mentioned like that those who follow these regulative principles of freedom, this term is used to point out that the goal of regulation is not bondage, rather the opposite, you become free. And it's very simple to understand. If you don't smoke, for example, you're free of addiction to nicotine, right? You can ask this person, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how free are you to just skip it, to give it up? Honestly, right? And so, because what goes, this is the trick also, it's Maya. Maya means that what is not. And one of the things advertisement is working with, selling you something that makes you addicted, but at the same time suggesting you are free by becoming addicted. Which is bizarre actually, but that's... So, and it's not that you have to, it's a choice you can make. As you can choose to smoke, you can also choose to not smoke. So why do you say I'm unfree that I choose not to smoke? Alright? So like this way.
The principles of freedom.
And also one thing is, for devotees it's important to understand the dealings between Krishna and his devotees in the spiritual world. You know, I like to point this out. Also, the Bhagavatam is giving us so much in the third canto, second canto, and many other cantos. Give us some insights, some windows are opening to see how is Krishna or Vishnu dealing with his devotees in the spiritual world. And how does it look like? Vaikuntha, without fear, a place without fear. And to be inspired by that, to keep this in mind and meditate on that, and then see, aha, yes, that's where we're aiming at, to an existence which is fearless. And usually Prabhupada also says, like, material existence is full of anxiety, and therefore it is fearful. And if people are honest, if we become sober and honest, then we will acknowledge, yes, this world is quite a fearful place. Just like that. But we shouldn't stick with only information this world is fearful and bad. No, we should think of how the spiritual world is great and a wonderful place to aim at. The alternative is important. Okay?
Do you know about these Rudras or more detail? Because I'm not sure. Because when Shiva, it is said he lives in the Kailash. And I read this also that there are many Rudras, but what is the difference between Rudra and Shiva? And this Shiva everyone is worshipping with the moon and the snakes and stuff. So also in many devotees temple you will find. So what kind of Rudra is this then? Or there must be also because...
Yes. The exact reference to figure out what type of Rudra is mentioned in a Shastra like a Purana or Bhagavatam, that requires a bit of quite insight and, context knowledge. It's not always so clear to me sometimes when Rudra is mentioned. It requires a purport, ideally, of an Acharya. But in general, you can understand that Brahma Samhita is teaching that as there are like kind of archetypes also of Maya Devi, and there's also archetype of Shiva, which is Shambhu. And he's emanating, he said there's Sadashiva. Sadashiva is practically situated, once his name refers to the form of, it's actually more or less a Vishnu form, residing in the spiritual world, who manifests the Shambhu, who comes through the glance of Mahavishnu. This is said in the Brahma Samhita that when Vishnu starts creating, there's a glance coming, and there's some dim ring of light. And from this Shambhu is manifested the prototype Shiva. But then the Shiva which manifests within the universe is already a next, so to say, generation. And the different empowered forms of Krishna, like even Brahma, they have the ability to expand to a certain degree through jivas. That means they empower particular jivas with their, potencies, and then they count as some kind of avatar of this Brahma or Shiva. And the Rudra sometimes are also being understood as being kind of a Shakti Avesha form of Rudra, of Shiva, the original one. But it might be confusing to figure out who is now exactly whom. Ultimately in Tattva, or in a central identity they're one, but they have these different gradations, and it's not always so easy to. But there are 11 main Rudras which deal with the destruction. That's in Bhagavatam. There's just brief descriptions of them. I don't recall at least a more elaborate description in the Bhagavatam.
And they are living in this universe or outside?
No, it's said they have particular also places, but I don't recall where. But in the Bhagavatam, Brahma is out because there's also the Shiva that comes from Brahma, for example, when he was born, this Rudra.
He must be inside.
Yeah, he's also asking, okay, where's my place? Where shall I reside? And then Brahma gives him his place, but I don't recall where. But they all have their designated residences.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Granted, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Prabhupada ki jai.
Keshava Mahaprabhu ki
Yeah.